Over the past few years, everything has changed. Where and how we work and live, the way we collaborate and measure success, and the emerging technologies we use to get it all done. Welcome to The Bridge. Join our host, Scott Kinka, in a series of discussions with top leaders in technology and learn about how they bridge their lives and their businesses into our new hybrid work and AI-driven reality. Our hope is that the insights and experiences will help you on your journey in business and in life from who we were to who we are today. And maybe it'll help you get better prepared for whatever comes next. The Bridge is a service of Bridgepoint Technologies, the nation's leading IT advisory firm. Bridgepoint helps business leaders evaluate, procure, implement, and manage technology and customer experience solutions with a focus on realizing sustainable results for your business growth. And now, here's your host, Scott Kinka.
IT leaders, do you remember when your HQ was the center of the business network? You threw a bunch of connectivity at it. You drove all of your locations to it, all your remote workers through the VPN to that HQ security edge. Then the cloud happened and COVID happened, and we stopped talking about connectivity. We stopped talking about locations. Our data center and our cloud became the core of our network. Speeds and feeds, while important, maybe not as interesting. My guest on this episode of the Bridgecast is Anthony Lobretto of cloud services provider 1111, where he is the SVP of all things of connectivity services. He's also a serial entrepreneur with not one, but two successful exits over the last decade and some change. And I asked him, frankly, what's a cloud company like 1111 doing worrying about, of all things, connectivity? His answer may surprise you. If you have a hybrid cloud infrastructure, particularly with portions in Amazon, you need to listen to this episode. Not convinced it'll be worth your time? When I asked him what he learned over his time as an entrepreneur, he said, the hardest thing about entrepreneurship is convincing people to believe in something they can't see. I think it's worth 25 minutes to find out if he can. You're already here with us. Hang out. And we hope to make it worth your while. Also, don't forget to smash that subscribe or follow button on the platform you're listening on. We love the support, and we hope you'll come back for more IT leadership stories in the future. Well, hi, and welcome to another episode of the Bridgecast. I'm thrilled to have with us today Anthony Lobretto. He's the Senior Vice President of Connectivity Services for 1111. I also see that he's, on the, I think tonight's the opening, when we're recording this is the opening night of the NFL season. So I take it you're a football fan before we even get started.
I'm a huge football fan, huge baseball fan.
Gotcha.
Big New York, New Jersey team guy.
Gotcha. Well, the folks who pay attention to the show know that I am a Philadelphia fan through and through. So this could be fun. We'll keep our prognostications until the end of the episode. So they'll have to listen to have us talk actual smack on this. But living in the city of little brother, not brotherly love, little brother to DC in New York. That's why we have such an attitude down here. Anthony, you live in New York, family, how long you been there? Give us a little personal background.
So I actually live in New Jersey.
Okay.
I grew up about 15 miles outside of New York City, a small town called Little Ferry. Hence the big Yankee fan. It was a easy drive into Yankee Stadium, and we would go pretty often. Now I live in northwestern New Jersey in a town called Montville.
Fantastic. And then in terms of career, I mean, you're now at 1111. And we'll discuss what it means to be running connectivity services for a cloud company in a minute. It's super interesting. We'll get there, but tell us how you arrived here. I mean, your business that you founded actually was acquired to become part of 1111, if I read that right?
That's correct. So I've been in the industry a long time, primarily on the network side, and I worked in financial institutions, and I was really active during the high frequency trading days, where we're providing low latency solutions to financial companies. I happened to come across a company called Hudson Fiber, worked pretty closely with them in a couple of different projects, and we had some common relationships. And Hudson Fiber was founded by Brett Diamond, who is the founder of 1111. So, throughout the years, we stayed in touch. And at Static One, we felt like it was the time to to actually, move on and see if we can partner with a company that can help us scale. First person I got in touch with was Brett Diamond, and 6 months later, here we are.
Gotcha. Amazing. And then, that's not the only company you founded.
No, there's been a few. I started with a small consulting company. It was acquired by an integrator that was focused on enterprises and government activities called DBR 360. Worked at DBR 360 for 2 years, and we were acquired by GTT Communications. Left GTT, did my time. Cleared some of the commitments I had with them, and then from there started Static One, and Static One eventually became 1111. So, it's been one company after another, each one unique. And what's interesting about them is each step along the way has got me to where I am at 1111. I have some consulting background. I have a ton of engineering background. DBR 360 was a cloud computing company. And now with Static One, we're really focused on building out managed network and connectivity for hyperscalers and things like that. So, coming to 1111, there's a little bit of all that.
Yeah.
So I feel like coming in, even though I'm focused on connectivity, it helps me navigate the company and also integrate some of the technologies that we have.
Yeah. So we're going to get into 1111 as a company, and then obviously what it is that you're doing there and why it's interesting in a minute. But I want to focus on, you've got an interesting story, and we talk to entrepreneurs of all kinds. And I think we probably have a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to the show, right? You've got, by measure on your LinkedIn, if I did the math right, like 2 exits on companies you founded, but basically second bites on 1 or 2, like you've been through this. And that's a little bit living a dream for some technical people out there who want to get going. So I got to ask you this question, like, do you have, for an aspiring tech entrepreneur, what's the thing now that you wish you knew when before you started your first company or tried to sell your first company?
The hardest thing is convincing people to believe in something they can't see. So, as an entrepreneur, you have an idea, and you have this idea and you can make it happen, but you need a team to actually implement it. And it's finding the right people, keeping people on track, and making people believe and seeing incremental success. That is really the key, because when you finally get to the end and you created what you started, it's very rewarding. And then you'll see other people want to get involved. But that first part of it is definitely by far the hardest.
Yeah. And you mentioned team, what part does just really having a super tight mission and message play in that also, when you're founding something? Was that ever a challenge for you?
I don't think it's a challenge. You find the right people along the way, and hopefully you find them earlier than later.
Yeah.
But I think the key is showing the vision and letting everybody know it's not going to be easy to get there. There's no benefit that comes out of, lying, or it's right. Like, hey, we have a plan. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But we're going to work on it together, and, I'll be there with you the entire time. And if you find the right people that actually like a challenge, it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's key. You definitely gotta be patient and make sure you have the right people.
That's amazing advice. One last question on that, and then we'll jump over to 1111. You've been through a couple. Do you have a superpower? What's your executive superpower?
Well, I don't quit. When I guess even my kids will say I'm relentless. So, if there's something that we need to get done, if I say I'm going to do it, it's going to get done one way or another.
Yeah. Being an entrepreneur, I guess that's part of the DNA, right? You're like chief cook and bottle washer. Right? I got it. That's yes. It. Let me know what I got to do.
Yep. Failure is not an option. You got to keep pushing forward.
Amazing. Amazing advice for aspiring tech entrepreneurs. Let's talk a little bit about 1111, because 1111 has an equally interesting story. It's sort of, I think in some ways, people who are listening to this may know of some of the component companies that make up 1111 today, maybe even more so than they know, 1111 as a brand. Can you just tell us a little bit about, just give us the 1111 story and really who the company is today?
So 1111 was founded with the concept of being able to bridge cloud connectivity and security. So you mentioned earlier we're a cloud company, but actually we're a cloud company because that's where the majority of our business is today and what some of our larger acquisitions are known for. I'll give you iland is a good example. Very well known in that space. But the goal is to try to bridge the gap between those other technologies because we feel like there's a lot of companies out there that can do one really well, but they can't do all. And it's very difficult for a buyer to then, buy your cloud and buy those other services from three different companies. So we try to give you all three pillars through one pane of glass and one team.
Got it. Makes sense. And then, so what would you consider, and you may have just said that, but I'm going to ask it again. And then, maybe it's a slightly different answer or it's a concise answer, but like, I'll ask you the superpower question here. Like if people thought about 1111 for one thing, what's the superpower?
I think it's one pane of glass
Yeah.
for all your technology, especially when you talk about managing risk. You're able to come to one company to manage different risks throughout the organization. You have us addressing your security concerns and risks, your disaster recovery and your cloud, and then also just reliable connectivity to get you to those.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is really where our superpower is, and we're constantly trying to evolve and provide additional solutions to give you visibility across your entire stack you procure from us.
And by that you mean, let me double click on that and go a little bit deeper. If there's a private cloud need, a DR need, those kinds of things might live in 1111's cloud as an example, but you're providing sort of that universal pane of glass with a single security posture and managed connectivity between them, even if there's hyperscalers involved in that process. You're like managing the hybrid cloud and also providing maybe some of the cloud infrastructure. Is that a reasonable way for me to describe it?
You nailed it. Because for us,
Yeah.
Cloud doesn't necessarily have to be an 1111 cloud service. You could also be connecting to a hyperscaler.
Yeah.
Or we actually provide connectivity and access to a hyperscaler through us, right? You don't have to go direct.
Okay.
But the goal is really, we look at the customers really just need an application, and we try to work with the customer to figure out where it lives. So we're looking at, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish? Here's where we feel it should live. We're going to give you a single management overlay and give you as much visibility as we can to that infrastructure.
Yeah. Do you find that you guys are doing a lot of unwinding of workloads in hyperscalers that were just sort of indiscriminately thrown up there, at board level edict, like, hey, we're going to go, it's like AI now, right? Let's go get some AI, 5 years ago, let's go get some cloud. Do you guys find that you're almost kind of moving stuff back out and sometimes spreading it back out and, building the management layer around that?
Definitely, because I think the costs catch up to people. That
Yeah.
when you get in there, it's cheap. Early on it's inexpensive, but as you start to grow, it's a bit unpredictable. So we have customers that have this huge cloud bill that we need to try to unwind and figure out where the best place for it to live. For me personally, I think there's a need for both. You have this
Of course.
this hybrid type of deployment. There's some stuff that's a great fit in our environment, great fit in hybrid, and there's also some stuff that's a great fit sitting on-prem. So it's a matter of just trying to figure out how we could deploy that. And again, if it's going to live on-prem, you got to figure out what risk is associated with that and how do we mitigate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%. I think I'll do both sides of it. I
Yeah.
think some companies rush to the cloud. I think some companies have taken too long and now we're trying to get there as fast as possible.
I get it. And you, just to make sure that I understand the scope of the services, like if you met with a customer who's got a bunch of infrastructure up in a hyperscaler right now, and maybe it all belongs there. Are you guys also doing just kind of management and optimization of workloads in there? So maybe they're in the wrong instance or paying the wrong way. Are those the kinds of optimizations that you'll do as well?
Yeah, and not only will we do the optimizations, but we'll actually manage the infrastructure.
Got
then
it.
we also have some very neat backup solutions. So if the customer is living in the hyperscaler and they need to back up somewhere, we have solutions to also solve that.
Got you. And is that, I guess that'll be a great segue into connectivity because, that's the thing that makes the recover, certainly the backup, but more importantly, the recovery more predictable. But before I get there, and that's regardless of what kind of machine you're backing up. Like you guys are partners with some of the big DR and backup kind of brands folks would know, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
The big ones out there, Veeam, Zerto.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. So now let's just talk about connectivity. I mean, in a lot of ways, as we're looking across the pantheon of technology that IT directors have put in over the last 30 years, right? The first thing outside of voice was connectivity, right? And then we went through multiple iterations in SaaS and we're in cloud. And here you are, the guy that's running connectivity for, a company that at least has its legacy in cloud, let's say, if I define that properly, given the history. Why is this an important thing? Like it feels in a lot of ways, probably to some people who are listening, like, aren't we beyond talking about speeds and feeds and getting connected? And we should be talking about, maybe sexier stuff on the cloud side. Why is this a critical initiative? Enough of a critical initiative that 1111 made some investments and brought you guys in, and you're leaning in. What's changed?
I think part of the problem is not a lot has changed, and it's still very hard to do. And if you look at customers that are already in the cloud and these large companies, they have connectivity teams. They're able to build that out. They may be in a data center that's co-located with Amazon. It's not a big problem for them. But when you start getting into companies that may have, locations around the country, they may have small IT teams, like retailers are a good example. It's actually really difficult to manage, and it's really difficult to find the right solution at the right location. So we originally started down the path of working with AWS because AWS saw the need for a connectivity partner that was, let's call it underlay agnostic. When I talk about the underlay, I'm talking about, local carriers.
Yeah, last mile, right? That's got
last mile providers that could actually help their customers that are not in the cloud yet get there.
Okay.
That's a big barrier of entry. Again, the ones that are there, they're going to stay there. There's a lot of companies, local government agencies that just are not comfortable with the connectivity they have, and therefore they stay with the legacy on-prem type solutions. So, for us, it's a matter of making that easy for them. They need to get connectivity back to a cloud environment. They need to get more predictable connectivity at their location, more resilient. They come to us, and we have the ability to actually make that really simple.
Yeah. So it used to be that, let's say, you mentioned retail. Let's unpack that for a minute. It used to be that retail was connected over a WAN. Maybe it was MPLS, maybe it was a VPN or something along those lines, back to a headquarters data center location where, maybe that's where the point of sale system was or something along those lines. We've kind of unpacked those locations. People went home. Big office corporate hasn't changed. Maybe that system's located up in the cloud now. So do I think about this like you're helping people do what might have been traditional connectivity back to a headquarters, but now assuming that the hyperscaler's at the middle of that. So you're brokering last mile connectivity and network management to get from, retail location or food services location to, securely to an on-ramp to an application that might be sitting in a hyperscaler.
Yeah, you got it. And when we think about it, I go back to the underlay. So we think about all that, the last mile carriers as the underlay. How are we going to get diversity? What carriers are going to use? What's the most cost effective? What are the different attributes of the facility we need to take into consideration? Right. So there's all that. And we have tools that we built that will give us intelligence about the locations. First and foremost, like who's lit there? What options do we have? Then we could drill a layer deeper and see, all right, how are these options diverse? Then we can go another level and figure out what the right costs are. So once that's established, we have a really good idea on how we light the facility. Then we put our overlay on top of it. For us, an overlay is an SD-WAN appliance that we build some policies, and then we connect the underlay to it. What makes us really unique, Scott, is that our cloud infrastructure that we've been building for forever, going back to the iland days, we have multiple locations globally. We actually build our on-ramps on those cloud environments. So we have virtual SD-WAN headends that sit in our cloud environment that the customers connect to from the facilities back to us. When they get to our head end, then they can get to any on-ramp from there.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. If a customer was perhaps like, because you mentioned SD-WAN as an example. So these are last mile connections, but they're not end-to-end MPLS or private lines or anything of that nature. Like that technology's, largely behind. They're getting on the internet. Can you overlay somebody else's underlayment? I mean, if they're already committed to a network, to an internet service provider someplace, are you able to just sort of layer your management and secure connectivity to services on top?
100%.
Okay.
So we actually have an option where you can mix and match. And, we have some good examples of that. We may have a customer that has an existing connection. They want to leverage it, but they also may want diversity. We'll allow them to bring that circuit, and then we'll add an additional circuit to give them the resiliency they need.
Got it. Interesting. And then let's take the other side. So you're working to get them to Amazon kind of once you get to your head ends. So they're effectively like treating that like a B side. Are they sort of, all the connectivity back to one of your locations and then sort of a master port size into a specific Amazon zone as an example? Like how do I think about the B side of that connection?
Yeah, so when they connect into our head end, from there, we have the ability to connect pretty much where the customer wants. So we'll take Amazon as an example.
Yeah.
So we have the ability to spin up hosted or dedicated direct connects. And then from there, we could bring them to the AWS region that they want to get to. So we could bring them to one region. We could bring them to multiple. We could bring them to a local region, and then they leverage AWS's backbone to get somewhere else. But we're just trying to bring our customers as close as possible. And then from there, we have some creative solutions. And, Amazon is one place they can go. They can also connect into our cloud infrastructure. And we could also backhaul them on our network to different regions. So think of a customer that's connecting back to our head end to get to Amazon, but they also may have another facility that's connecting back to that same head end. Well, now you also have your wide area network traffic routing through our head end and not just getting to the hyperscaler. So it's essentially a wide area network replacement with cloud on-ramp associated with it, all connecting back to a virtual environment on the head end that also has security functionality.
That's a great way of looking at it. And they're looking at a single pane of glass across all of those locations, regardless of whether they brought the connectivity, you brought the connectivity, and also seeing the Amazon side of it. It's really, really interesting concept. What makes this unique in Amazon's ecosystem? Like you mentioned, they were seeking a connectivity partner. Tell me a little bit more about that partnership.
Yeah, I think what makes it unique is our ability to be agnostic from an underlay perspective, and also try to make it as frictionless as possible from an overlay standpoint. So obviously, Amazon is not exclusive with us. Their customers are a lot of the large carriers, and they work with them very closely. I think we make it easy for their customers because we're agnostic, right? They can come to us. We're still leveraging the underlying carriers, which ultimately benefits those AWS customers, but we're just providing an easier, more like frictionless experience to the customer.
Got it. And if somebody's already very busy in the Amazon ecosystem, like you guys are, you're deep in there, right? You're a marketplace vendor. They're able to transact certain ways. I mean, there's some value to that scale, right?
Definitely. So we all offer our connectivity services through the AWS marketplace.
Okay.
So we are the first provider globally to do this. And really what that means is that wide area network topology we were talking about before, you could buy through the AWS marketplace and get some of the advantages of doing that. So procurement advantages, and there's just an overall simplicity from a purchasing standpoint. Sounds a little bit easier than it actually is.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we were able to get over or to solve was our ability to charge some of the taxes and fees associated with telecommunication services through the marketplace. So it's something we worked really closely with the AWS team on the last 6 months. So when a customer buys from us, the customer gets an invoice. Included in that invoice are all the associated taxes and fees that AWS traditionally couldn't charge for. That's all taken care of. So you literally come to us, we give you a private offer, sell you the connectivity, purchase it through the marketplace. You get the advantages of the marketplace, but you're buying a service that you may have bought outside of it anyway.
Yeah, it's super interesting. We're doing quite a bit with a couple of suppliers of ours, partner suppliers of ours, who are in the marketplace. Even as we're building, I envision a customer who's got, might need our Bridgepoint consultant to also help them source data center space in specific areas, layer in an 1111 on the network side, maybe some of your DR services, bring in Amazon, but still being able to kind of consolidate the actual purchasing element on there is really super interesting, and something we're able to, help our customers with as well. Really, really interesting in there. Anthony, anything else on this that I missed that maybe we want to mention around this offering? I know this has been not new, but you're sort of leaning in right now to solve what you believe is a pretty big problem that customers are experiencing today. Anything I missed on the overall connectivity services?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, perfect. Well, this was really interesting. Tony, getting to talk to, I won't call you a serial entrepreneur, but you've been doing a great job, seeing new ideas through to fruition over the last couple of decades. It is really impressive and been a great opportunity to talk to you. Let's wrap with some fun, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I'm going to throw some questions at you. The first one's kind of easy, and it can be about anything. Given the fact that I started with some smack talk about football, maybe that's where you're going to go, but I need a shameless prediction for the next 18 to 24 months. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be business. It can be technology. It could be sports. Like, throw something out there that we can check back on in another year and some change.
Jets win the Super Bowl.
Okay. You're confident. I like it.
I tell my sons, I have twin sons. They're 17 years old. One's a Jet fan. The other one's actually a Commanders fan. And so I know you don't like that.
How'd you let that happen?
They haven't seen me cry many times, but if the Jets win the Super Bowl, I will shed a tear. I can promise you that.
I will say I got to shed my tear as an Eagles fan just a few years ago, and it was awesome. So, you know what? If the Eagles aren't going to be the winners, then it would be super cool to see somebody who hasn't won it repeated times in recent memory pull that off. That would be awesome. No, that's good. Let me ask you a couple business related questions. Like, one, what's on your end table right now? What are you reading? Is there anything interesting that you'd like to share?
The last thing I read was, let me think about this. Opportunity and the Obstacle.
Okay.
I believe was that I've been reading. But that was the last thing. It was probably a couple months ago.
Tell me 2-sentence synopsis on Opportunity and the Obstacle.
It's really about just, dealing with problems on a daily basis. And when there is a problem, you try to think of the positive and how to make an opportunity of it. And I think it helps at work, but it also helps in your personal life too. You just start looking at things differently. Hey, you're going to throw this obstacle up. It's a challenge, but what's going to happen out of it? Like, it's always something positive wrapped around that challenge that's in front of you. Yeah. And if you think that way, I believe it encourages you to get through it.
Yeah. At least encourages you to maybe stop and take a breath before you react. Right. Which is,
you're right. Like, just take a second. Maybe this isn't that bad.
Yeah.
Let me work through it. And, a lot of times you have no choice but to go through the obstacle. So you might as well just figure out the positive and just keep moving forward. Right. It's happening anyway.
What I'm looking through, I have a list of like a handful of questions that would be really fun. All right, here's a good one. Tell me about the biggest mistake you've made as a technology leader.
Oh, as a leader or as an engineer?
Either. You could take engineer. It sounds like you have an engineer one, so let's go with that.
Yes, I accidentally deleted the internet VRF from our largest customer's router about 10 years ago. So in a matter of 5 seconds, the entire enterprise was down.
Yeah.
And there's really no way to fix it. Now, I'll give myself credit. Down the road, Cisco actually added like a check. Are you sure you want to do this? Because there was some command syntax that was very similar.
Yeah.
So hopefully I was one of the last that happened to. But that was a really big mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah, it caused like company-wide changes as far as change control and who could do what.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
And you're saying VRF, so as
Yeah.
as also a networking geek, I mean, it wasn't as simple. People are like, why didn't he just rebuild the internet gateway? Well, you had explicit routes from every location on that network, I'm guessing, right? So you weren't like, this was not an easy fix.
I pretty much deleted the router.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it that way, it's a virtual router. I deleted the router. So then I had a hard time getting into it.
Yep.
But luckily I had some help from a good friend and an engineer, this guy, Mike. And he happened to be in the area. He drove over there. He knew how to restore it. So we were down for a couple hours. But it was rough.
What has that added to your management toolkit, like that mistake? When does that come back in your life?
It's okay to make a mistake if you do it in a change window. So, you know, as long as you're operating within the policies and the procedures that you have in place, mistakes can be made.
Yeah.
It's when you break those policies and procedures where, you know, mistakes can really hurt you. So I always tell our engineers too, it's okay to make mistakes. Just do them at the right time. We'll fix them. Expectations will be set, and we'll move on to the next thing you learn from it. As soon as you operate outside of that, though, you know, you're setting yourself up to get in trouble. Now, luckily, we didn't have the policies and procedures for that customer.
Yeah.
They were implemented after that, though.
All right. Thanks to you. You're providing public service there. All right.
Well,
last one. Here's just a fun one.
Thanks to the person that asked for it.
Yeah.
That asked for the change.
I love it.
I just implemented it.
All right. Well, here you go. Last one, then I'll let you go. We ask this question often. So the next, you know, some big, you know, we're in some dystopian future. I don't pick whatever one you want, you know, asteroid and we survived, you know, alien invasion, Skynet descends, whatever it is. And you only have one application that is left operating on your mobile phone. You get to choose. Which one is it?
On my mobile phone or my laptop?
Your mobile phone.
iMessage.
Okay. Got it. So you're like, just keep it simple. I got to be able to get in touch with people.
That's it.
All right. I mean, I like it. It's simple. We've had all kinds of answers, as you could possibly imagine. Some people are like, you know what? If that's the case, I'm packing it in. Just give me my music now, right? Like, so I like that. But you're going to remain active here and try and keep in touch with everybody. I like it. Anthony, this has been really, really fun. It's and it's football eve, so I'm loving the background. You're getting me pumped up, and I'm ready to go. So it was thrilling to have you on the show today, and I'm really glad we had the opportunity to do this. Thank you.
Yeah, and look, maybe we'll have Phillies Yankees. I mean, that's a possible.
It's a
right?
distinct possibility right now.
It is, that would be fun. That would be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, there's like four or five teams right now who are all within 2 or 3 games of each other, and most of them are in different divisions. It just makes it super interesting right now.
Yeah,
I'm excited about it. Phillies had a swoon over August, but are back to bombing it. So we'll see how it goes.
I hope so. I have a bet with my neighbor. He's a big Phillies fan. So we have a dinner bet if the Yankees and the Phillies go. So
all right.
Hopefully I win that bet.
Well, we'll be texting during it. I'll make sure I get your number. Great hanging out today. I appreciate the time, Anthony.
Yeah, and look, if Aaron Rodgers, something happens on Monday, please delete the comment I made before about the Jets winning the Super Bowl.
I tell you what, I will get with our producer. The only way that we'll edit this would be if that happens, we're just going to put a big Jets symbol over your mouth as you're making that statement and black out all the audio. I love it. Thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it. Listen, if you made it this far, there must have been some good content, or you're just a fan or a relative of mine. In either case, we appreciate you spending your most valuable asset with us, your time. We don't take that lightly. We'd also like to say one more time that we're appreciative of Bridgepoint Technologies and their belief and sponsorship of this show. We hope that if you or someone you know is thinking about your company's digital transformation, or simply the next IT project that you may not have the resources, budget, or time to get to, I'm sure that Bridgepoint, one of the country's fastest growing technology advisory and procurement firms, can help. Check out bridgepointtechnologies.com. Don't forget the E on Bridgepoint, or simply reach out to me at Skinka, SKINKA, at bpt3.net. Also take a minute, please, if you would, to give us a 5-star review on your favorite platform. It helps give us the visibility to reach other people like you. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Bridge. I'm Scott Kinka, and until next time, there's a lot of noise out there in business and in life. Do what you can to be the signal. Thanks.